Stone County Extension saves the world.
No! I don't know if we recorded any of that.
Welcome back to Stone County Extension Saves the World. I'm Tyler Caston.
I'm Anna Harlan.
And it's the weekend after Halloween. Did you go trick-or-treating?
I didn't go trick-or-treating, but we had trunk or treat, and I dressed up as an ear of corn.
Ear of corn.
And I took a bag of corn and just dumped it in the back of my vehicle, which a lot of people were like, oh, that's going to be fun to clean up. But and so I put candy in it, and the kids had to dig in it, and they loved it. So nothing.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Nothing a big vacuum can't handle. So
Have you cleaned it out yet?
I did. It actually went a few days before I did. But yeah, I got it cleaned out finally. But
We went to the trunk or treat here on the court square. There was a lot of people.
we went to the high school, and then we went to Timbo. The volunteer fire department had a big one. I drove by the square, and I could not believe, which last year we had our 4-H event, and there's probably felt like 1,000.
Yeah, I think there was more.
More?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Like it was a lot of people. And
Our square's made really nicely for that type of event to take place.
yeah, it was neat. Kids got a little bit of candy. Had, of course,
Did they pay the parent tax?
the parent candy tax. You know what they don't have a lot of anymore? Gobstoppers. You remember those?
I'm more of a chocolate person, and I was a little disappointed because Whitney only got hard candy.
Yeah.
But those Nerds gummy clusters, they took a hit.
Yeah.
But I never really liked gobstoppers.
You
You remember people used to have popcorn balls, homemade popcorn balls? Did you ever get any of those?
I remember maybe one time I got a popcorn ball, but the last time that I remember going trick-or-treating, I was a senior in high school, or maybe a junior. I still have my red S10, and is a single cab standard 5-speed. And I remember because it was me, Brandon, Aho, and Justin. And
That's a crew. How old
And
would Justin have been if you were a senior?
24, 25? Well, that
He was
comes
born in
into-
82.
Yeah. And I was born in 87, so don't make me do math.
Mid-20s.
Yeah, mid-20s. So
Ish.
so it's me, Brandon, Justin, and Aho, and we all pile into my little red S10, and we're going around Marshall, is where I went to high school, and I think Brandon was sitting in the middle, and he'd shift, and
Yeah, that was a little vehicle to have 4 people
yeah,
in.
and it was just kind of a last-minute deal. It's like Aho, his nickname,
His name's Aaron Horton.
and he's a year younger than me, and so it's like, hey, let's go trick-or-treating, and we kind of threw together a costume, and I think I called Brandon. Is on a weekend, so he'd have been coming in from college, and so we're like, let's just go around Marshall. And Brandon, he dressed as like a deer hunter, and Justin, he had like an actual costume.
Did he have one of his scary
Yeah, I think
costumes?
so.
Yeah, he had some scary ones.
And then so my sister had like a little Red Riding Hood cape, and I tied that on me, and then put like some pantyhose over my head, and all 4 of us went trick-or-treating, and we'd go up to the houses, pull up there, and all pile out and knock on the door, and finally we'd like go up to this one house and knock, and it's like, trick-or-treat, trick-or-treat.
Did you
And
change
then
your voices to sound like children?
I think we tried to, but then Justin was like, trick-or-treat. And he's wearing a mask, and she's like, how old are you? And he like lifts his hood, and he's like, 25.
He had to shave in like 6th grade, so
And she's like, get out of
man.
here, you buttholes.
I mean, really though, y'all weren't doing anything
weren't-
bad. You were
Yeah,
just
we could have been
trick-or-treating.
out throwing dough or something, but
Yeah,
we were trick-or-treating.
People that do that. I don't remember the last time I went trick-or-treating, but we had talked the other day about one poor little trick-or-treater got scarred for life trick-or-treating. My mom, South Bayou Drive used to be a really hot spot for trick-or-treaters to go down that road, and we had this turkey. We had a few turkeys, so I think it was Andy found them, and he found a wild hen's nest that had the mom got killed or something.
Yeah.
Doing hay, and they brought the eggs to us because I had chicken hens, so we raised them. And there were several hens, and they would go up to Town and Country and poop on people's vehicles and
man.
stuff. Yeah, but we had one gobbler, and he was so mean. I could not go outside unless I had a baseball bat. That's how bad he was. And
We
he
had a
hated,
rooster like that.
Yeah, well, imagine a turkey. And
Yeah.
he was so big that in my memory, his beard was dragging the ground. And he hated 3-wheelers, 4-wheelers, and white trucks. So he'd go up to the road and attack a vehicle driving by. So that's how mean he was. He wouldn't let me off the trampoline one time. Anyway, all this to build a case for how evil this thing was. And so this trick-or-treater parked in between my neighbor and my mom and dad's, and it's like he was going to hit both. And him and the turkey showed up, and he wasn't about it. And him and the trick-or-treater were the same height. And that kid, like, we hear screaming.
Oh,
so we
no.
went outside on the porch, and he was taking his bag, and he's swinging, and that turkey just kind of go, whoo, and then he just come right back in at him. And I thought, gosh, his spurs were huge. We were hoping he wouldn't. And that kid just screaming.
Did he get away?
He got away. And then, but he didn't come trick or treat at our house.
No, I wouldn't. I'd be like, don't go there.
Got in the van. So I wonder who this, if you're out there, let us know your side of the story. But we were laughing. I mean, what do you do?
I don't know. Did you eat him? Yeah, I'd end up eating him.
No. So all of the turkeys ended up going back wild unless someone caught them at Town and Country. But the hens came, he would kind of go away, come back, go away, and I didn't see him again. And then the next year, a hen came back and brought all her chicks, because if I would always call my chickens to feed them. And so I called for her, and she came up running, but then it's like she realized, I can't come hang out here anymore, and left. So anyway,
Yeah.
interesting time with our
turkeys.
wild turkeys.
Thanksgiving's coming up.
It
You gonna
is.
be eating any turkey?
So my favorite way to eat turkey at Thanksgiving's deep fried.
Deep fried turkey.
Honest.
Is that healthy? Is that a healthy option?
Probably not. I mean, no, probably not. Take the skin off, I guess, but that's
Yeah.
the best part. So, I've had smoked turkey before, and that's good.
I bet
That's
smoked
good.
turkey would be good.
Yeah, Jerry Wilson was always good at smoking turkey. So I was thinking about now with the benefits and government shutdown and everything, turkey really is a pretty cheap, relatively cheap source of protein. So I just did a quick little check of the prices. I looked at our 2 grocery stores, and one of them had turkey is 97 cents per pound, like raw whole turkey. And a whole chicken is at least $1.32 per pound, from what I could find of the prices. So you do not have to just eat turkey in November if you're feeding your family. You could spatchcock a turkey, which is like you're cutting out the backbone and then you're going to flatten it out. And it cooks way faster. I wrote down it's about 6 minutes per pound. So
6
it wouldn't
minutes.
take long to bake it at that. And then whenever I've done that before, I'll take the backbone and then I usually cut off the wing tips because they may get overdone, and I'll throw them in with some leftover onion tops, maybe some carrots, mushrooms, and make stock out of that.
Yeah.
So you could even if you didn't want to just eat it like a piece, like a leg or whatever, you could shred it up and use it in jambalaya, enchiladas, chicken salad. So it's just another option, for you at your house. So don't just turkey's not just once a year if you don't want it to be.
Yeah.
So
I like turkey pretty good.
I like it when it's not overcooked.
Yeah.
I feel
when
like
it's
that's
not real
pretty
dry.
key.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty key. And I've never baked one, just a whole one, like all together.
How
I only
long,
broke it
like,
down.
do you know about how long defrosting a frozen turkey?
Yeah, so you better plan ahead on that, or you might be in a little bit of trouble. But so for 4 to 12 pounds, it takes 1 to 3 days in the refrigerator, and that's going to be your safest way to
defrost
thaw it.
it, just
To thaw it out. So you really got to plan ahead. So if you have a 12 to 16 pound turkey, that's 3 to 4 days. 16 to 20 pound turkey is pretty good sized turkeys, 4 to 5. And then you get above the 20, it's going to be 5 to 6 days. And then you need to use it within 1 to 2 days after you've thawed it in the refrigerator. So you've got to plan ahead for that. But if you get to the day and it's not fully thawed, so you're kind of panicking, you can thaw it under running cold water. So If you have a 4 to 12 pound turkey, you can thaw that out in 2 to 6 hours. So if it's partially thawed, but you want to make sure that it's submerged with that cold water continually running to make sure that you're not getting too high in temps.
Okay.
And so you can defrost it. Fridge is the best, and then if you were kind of worried about part of it not being fully, then you can run it under cold water. There's microwave too, but I'm sure you're going to kind of run into some other things with it. I don't think I could fit one in my microwave.
Probably not in there.
Not a very big turkey.
Not a very big
anyway.
turkey anyway. We'd be able
Pushing
to
him in there.
just packing in.
Yeah, and microwave might make it a little rubbery too. So, yeah, it's that time already. I can't believe we're
1st of November,
oh man,
a week into November.
Yeah,
It's going by quick.
it is.
Well, it's been a pretty busy week this week. Had several trainings and the share session. I call that a training, but that was fun.
It was at Petty Jean State Park, and I've not been past right there at the museum where they have the car show at. It was beautiful.
I think
up there.
The first time I've been there was just a few months ago, and then my second time. But yeah, I was driving through there and just looking at the trees and leaves on both sides of the road, and I was like, "This is cool."
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna go back to Petty Jean State Park and go camping, and we've kind of started, some of my family, trying to hit the different state parks throughout the state of Arkansas, and we've got some very nice ones. And so it's great to be there in that nice setting, and it's always good to hear what other agents are up to.
What they got going on, and kind of talk through some scenarios and stuff. I enjoy doing that type of stuff.
Yeah, it's good to get a perspective from another agent about how they'll handle that program and the different types of counties. Every county's different. And then sometimes you pick up on little tools that you're like, oh man, that'll really make a difference.
Yeah.
And then it's good to hear from seasoned agents, and then even new agents will have some fresh ideas, and it's always good.
Yeah,
good time.
I like doing that, and I like hanging out with everybody.
Oh yeah, I like to see everybody. It's good. It's good to get to know each other and share just some commonalities and learn new things. And
yeah, and I went to organic training.
Where was that at?
It was at Searcy. Have a few people around here, Stone County, interested in it, and I just kind of know what I've studied off the USDA website, but they had an actual training as Organics 101.
What topics did they hit?
How do you get certified? And it's easier than what I thought. So say you wanted a ground to be organic, and they have different certifications, and it's a USDA label, and you have to follow the protocols and be certified and be inspected to get that USDA organic label. But it's a lot of work, but it's a little easier than what I thought. And so let's say you have some ground, it has to be 3 years without any restricted type things being on that. And what they're trying to do with organic is be sustainable and do natural type inputs and lower inputs rather than using a bunch of commercial fertilizer as like your source of nitrogen. You want to build up like a nutrient reservoir using manures or natural occurring chemicals, or you can even get like there's like a list of restricted deals. I don't know them all, but to be certified, so you'd have to get in contact with a certifier. There's none in Arkansas, but the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, they have a certifier, and they actually had a guy come in, and he kind of talked about it. And there is a cost to it, and I asked him, how much might it cost, and it depends on
the size of your
operation. It depends on the size of your operation, probably, and how much they've got to come out. You have to pay their travel expenses, and then there's several different companies, and they may charge you a different price. So one guy, had paid them a flat rate to be certified, and then on another part of his farm, he is paying like a percentage of his crops to the certifier. But
that's interesting.
That was like a row crop. He was doing organic soybeans. But the guy, he said from Oklahoma that somewhere around probably the certification process be less than $1,000. He said like $600, $800 plus travel expenses. And so you have that certifier come in. Your ground has to be without any of those inputs for 3 years, but then they'll come up with a plan. So if you're, say, you're wanting to raise organic livestock, well, first you've got to certify the ground that you're raising them on. The pasture, it has to be certified first, and then organic livestock, it's just they have to consume everything organic. And so if your ground is certified, your pasture, to be organic, then they're consuming, and say you're doing a grass-fed beef, then they can be certified organic. But what's strange is like the whole, like it's got to be organic all the way through. So they have to eat, like we went and toured a guy's place, and that's what he does is grass-fed organic. But so he got his pasture and certified, and then the hay that he cuts is certified, and that's what they're eating. They're all grass-fed. And then say when he wants to go to processing, he can't label them as USDA organic because the processor's not organically labeled. And so that's kind of weird. But then there's also certifications for, say, you haven't growing a garden and wanting to do organic vegetables, like the ground you're growing on, it has to be 3 years without any restricted inputs. And we went and toured a little organic farm over there, and they were growing on about an acre, doing a bunch of high tunnels and crop rotation, and that was really interesting. Like, so how they'd work is they'd have a ground and they'd laid some plastic down, is like that white and black plastic, white on one side, black on the other. And over the winter they'd lay down like the black side up, so it'd collect heat and kill like any of the weeds underneath there. And then they'd plant in it and then flip it over to the white side as like to help germinate. And then they had some high tunnels, and then they were just doing like on crop rotation. And so
that's cool.
they sold to a lot of restaurants within Arkansas, you know.
So if you were above ground, you weren't in the soil, could you start before that 3-year period?
Like if you're, well, how you would go about it is you'd want to get in contact with the certifier. So say you're going in a raised bed to grow organic, is if that was organically labeled, you're following the organic practices. And I'm not saying you say that you're organic, you have to be certified. There is like a certain amount. If you're under that, you can say that you're, claiming organic. You can't use the organic seal, but I believe it's under $5,000 if you're staying under gross sales of that and you're doing the organic practices, like not using any restricted like commercial fertilizers or pesticides. You can say, like if you're selling at a farmer's market, you say these are organically raised.
So you couldn't use the seal, but then
couldn't-
over the 5,000, you would have to be certified.
Yeah, if you start selling over the $5,000, then you need to get certified if you're wanting to claim that organic.
So it'd be good to contact a certifier at the beginning, even if it may be a few years out for you.
And there is some funding, and like we have educational resources for transitioning to organics. NRCS has, I think it's through the EQIP, they have like a transitional to organic where you can get a little bit of cost share to work
nice.
towards it. Again, it's for 3 years. You have to, it can't have any of the restricted, and you have to be doing the organic practices on it. And if you're doing it for 3 years, you contact a certifier, and they said it's really like a lot quicker. Like they'll look it over, and it's a lot of record keeping is what is required. And so you have to have like a farm plan. Again, the certifier is going to kind of work with you to get you set up. So if you are interested in growing organic, reach out to a certifier or hit us up.
Well, even if you didn't want to be certified, there's resources for you.
Yeah.
Through extension.
And saying that, like even like the goal of organic, it kind of has this, they're wanting to be sustainable. And I think that's something in agriculture we need to think about, is lowering our inputs and doing certain best management practices that lowers are overall. And so we toured that a guy's farm that he does. He's organically certified for livestock, and so what he was doing is like he was doing a type of managed grazing, but it was mob style grazing. He followed this one guy's kind of grazing academy, but he had like 250 cows and calves, and he'd rotate them around paddocks. He said he had like over 30 paddocks that he had made, and I think
So they're on the piece of ground for just a short amount of time.
yeah, they're on that piece of ground for a short amount of time, and so he'd mob graze them where you have a max load. And so what he's doing is he's forcing them to graze, whereas cattle, they'll go out and they'll
Pick what they like.
and they'll graze it, and then they'll walk over here and graze that, and when that other stuff starts to regrow, they'll grow back and graze that. And what we see a lot is people are overstocked on their pastures. That's something farmers around here need to consider if they're wanting to increase the amount of grass they're able to grow. Are you at your carrying capacity, or are you over that carrying capacity? And that's the amount of animals that a piece of ground can hold. And
So you could probably get more out of your
you could
property
get more
with
out of your
rotational
ground
grazing.
with some form of managed grazing. And there's several different styles. And we had a forage specialist. He used to say, do you just allow cattle to graze everything? And he said, if you want to start rotational grazing, just shut your gate. And so what we're trying to do with that, and what this guy did, is he'd mob graze, and they're not able. There's so many of them out there. They're competing for grass that they're going to eat everything. He said I've seen them eat thistles, but he
That's
didn't.
interesting.
But what was cool about it was there wasn't a lot of broadleaf pressure out there, because he's grazing it and then moving them off there, allowing it to get, down. They graze it down so low, then he moves them off to another paddock and allows that one to rest. And
So that alone could help you use
that alone
less
could help
inputs.
you lose less inputs. You're spreading your manure around as cattle go throughout a field. If they've, pooped and peed on something, they're not going to come back and eat on it. They know I've just took a dump over there, and so I'm not going to go eat over there. But if
I don't want to eat in the bathroom.
yeah, so there's a lot of waste, and so what we're doing with controlled grazing is just increasing the efficiency of that field. And if, say, you're doing something like a continuous grazing where they're allowed to just eat whatever they want, and they're
going to get picky.
Yeah, they get picky to select their favorite things and the stuff they don't like to eat that maybe they normally would. Like, say you have some fescue out there, and then you have, say, some other type of grass. That fescue is real. If you ever felt the edge of it, it's like a sawtooth, and so it's not as palatable. They'll eat it, but if they've got something else that they prefer, they're going to eat it first, and then maybe there's a patch of it over there. They go over there and eat it, and then that fescue gets too mature, and then they really don't like it. And so if you're doing some sort of managed grazing, you can increase your efficiency from, say, a continuous grazing is probably like they're utilizing 25%. Well, if we switch to some form of controlled grazing, we can increase their utilization maybe by 30 to 40%. And
That's quite a bit.
yeah, just using more of the pasture that you've actually
You
got.
already have it. You're not.
And so doing practices like that actually do make sense. And I think a lot of farmers should think about that. Like, fertilizer is real expensive. Well, if we can get our fields right and we're doing more grazing, less hay cutting, because hay takes a lot of nutrients out of the ground. You think about it, we're going out there, we put out fertilizer, the grass grows, we harvest it for hay, and then we take all that away. Whereas in pasture, we fertilize it, cattle are going through there, grazing it, and they're using a little bit, but essentially they're recycling a lot of the nutrients, not 100%, but
more than if you were
more than
totally
if we're just removing it out. And then, so if we're able to increase our grazing, we can lower the amount of hay we have to feed. Dr. John Jennings had developed this thing called 300 Days of Grazing, where you're using here in Arkansas, part of Stone County, we've got a pretty good growing season. We got the ability to grow cool season grasses, and then May, June, July, August, we can grow warm season like Bermuda grass as a perennial, or and then say in the spring or in the fall, like fescue's coming on, or we could plant something like a ryegrass or a cool season annual like a winter wheat or a oat, and it, these past few years it would have been hard because we've been having a fall drought, but if you plan for that, so I know that I'm kind of in a drought, but I've got this field over here. I could either graze them or I could feed hay right now to allow this pasture to rest and kind of regrow. Then I could say come back and graze them maybe a little bit later instead of having to feed hay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
with cattle, you're really in the grass management business.
Yeah, that is it. You're wanting to manage your forages a little bit better. Then you want to be a grass farmer rather than a cattle farmer. We want to have those animal husbandry abilities to where we know how to move livestock, work around them. Cattle, we know they're a prey animal, they're a herd animal. Knowing their fight or flight zones, where that balance is, and how you can approach and put pressure and then relieve to move them around and do that safely, that's important. But if you don't have good forages or a good forage program where you're able to grow grass, you're not going to be successful.
And it's hard driving by places and seeing malnourished cattle and tough times.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and cattle prices are pretty decent right now, and so we could cull, get rid of some of them that aren't doing what we need them to do.
Poorly.
Yeah. Send them to the sale barn and get our stocking rate at a more manageable thing and allow more grass to grow. It'll make it a little bit easier on you, and you'll get kind of an increase in your cattle's condition. Mm-hmm. And that makes them able to perform a little bit better. Kind of wrap up our little talk about grazing, how we're being a grass farmer. We're here into November. It was a little droughty back, July, August, September. I don't think it rained till September 23rd.
It went from the beginning of August.
Yeah, beginning of August to like September 23rd.
For a good rain.
For a good rain here in Stone County. But that's a lot of times when we would want to be planting, say, a cool season grass for, say, fall grazing. If you'd have took the chance and, say, went out and seeded early February, you'd probably got good germination. But we're into November now, and you might be like, well, I still want to put something out to have some early spring grazing. You're probably not going to get any benefit from it
over the winter.
For as like a fall grazing, but we can still do some sort of cool season annual ryegrass. I wouldn't do oats.
This late?
They won't overwinter. Okay. They're more of a fall, like you could plant them early in the fall and they'll grow up and we could graze them before it gets real cold. Something like winter wheat, I think there would still be time for, but winter wheat has to go through that vernalization, so it has to have that cold period to really take off in the spring. So winter wheat wouldn't be something you'd want to plant in the spring. In early spring, you still have time. You could still do like a ryegrass or an oat is what I'd do for like an early spring. Some guys do like cereal ryegrass, or not ryegrass. Some guys do cereal rye, or you can do a mixture of stuff like a ryegrass or a cereal rye. And those are two different things. And a lot of times I get confused. They'll be like, I'm wanting to plant some rye. And so it's like, well, okay.
Which one?
And yeah, and then there's ryegrass, and then there's cereal rye. But one thing that's neat about cereal rye is it's able to like access nutrients that get bound up, or that, say you're growing a crop off something and it's not able to access all the nutrients, that you plant like some cereal rye and it gets down there and it can like pull them out. And a lot of guys use that cereal rye for like a cover crop. And say if you needed to increase your organic matter, plant some cereal rye and then go in and get it back into the ground, it'll be able to access those nutrients and put them back in the soil if you let them go. So cereal rye would be a good one. I think there'd be time to do it. It may be one of them that requires that vernalization too, so it might not be a good option for early spring. But you still have time here in November that if you got out and did a broadcast or used a no-till drill, you could get out some sort of cool season annual to allow you to have some early spring grazing, or maybe even you use it as your first hay cutting there. And
How many more weeks into November could you do that in our area?
we're probably about to start getting some real hard frosts. I'm probably not much past mid or before Thanksgiving. Ask me
Okay.
that again.
So how much more time would they have to plant those in our area at this point in November?
It's hard to say. It does depend on weather, but I probably would say try to do it before Thanksgiving.
Okay. So pretty soon.
Pretty soon. Well, what we got going on in 4-H?
So last week I had my first meeting with my Stone County Youth Leadership group. So you have to apply to be in Stone County Youth Leadership. It's just during the school year. And I have 6th, 8th, and 9th grade students throughout the county. And so it's open to all the campuses and homeschool. And we met at Centennial Bank. Thankfully, Lily Green set that up. And we went through the Get Real Here's the Deal program, which was one of my favorites because we talk about building credit and how to give yourself bad credit or good credit and net income, gross. And then we talk about, tax withholdings and all that. And they're sitting there. And they're probably thinking, this is a lot of information. How does this apply to me? And then they get a fake job based off of real pay.
Yeah.
And they get this family scenario, and I usually try to give them a bunch of kids.
Yeah. Do you still take out the good jobs?
I try to take out the good jobs. Now, one lucked out. He still had a pretty good job. But I try to take out all the high-paying jobs so that they have to suffer a little bit. And because I don't want it to be easy. I want it to be what I think of as real life. So they get their family scenario, they get their income, and then they go around to these different boards and they have to get a house that'll fit everybody, a vehicle, buy food. And it's funny because some will go through and they'll just get the cheapest thing so that they can have the most money at the end. And it's like, would you want that normally? They'll just do that, or they'll go and buy another vehicle. That's one thing that happened. One, he was like, all right, I want to give a second vehicle.
Yeah.
And after he did bare minimum on everything, so that was funny. And they try to not have to buy internet and phones. And so that's a really good eye-opener, and they always really enjoy that program. And then Lily spoke to them about different areas in the bank careers, and we went around, and any of the employees that were available talked about how they got to their point in this career, how long they've been there, important things for them as a citizen. What are some things that are going to face them? What are some things that can really set them back?
Yeah.
And so getting to hear that, it was so nice because we talked about several of those things, and then they got to hear that again for the different groups throughout the bank. So I appreciate Centennial Bank, and they bought lunch for us and gave us the space. So shout out to them for being a good financial partner for us in that program. So
Well,
it's a good day.
you got any classes coming up?
I have a cranberry sauce and a chicken soup canning class coming up next week. I think the chicken soup class is about full. And then cranberry sauce is one of the easiest things you can. So it's a great first timer, and that's on the 13th. And then I've partnered with Modern Woodman. So if you're a Modern Woodman member, then we're doing cranberry sauce on November 18th at 5:30 p.m. I don't do a lot of night classes. So if you're a Modern Woodman member, I would take advantage of that. And cranberry sauce, if you have one of those purists in your household, do y'all eat cranberry sauce?
The canned.
Yeah, so there's always someone that says they only eat it out of the can. So one year I made it and I poured, like I'd cleaned a can and I poured it in there so it'd have all the little ridges and everything. Yeah, it's better than canned, I think, or at least, it's definitely not worse. So.
Not worse. Yeah, I've got the brucellosis coming up on the 18th. We've got guys signed up for that. I hope that goes good.
Oh, and we have a food drive November 21st coming up. Our 4-H group been doing food drive for a very long time.
It was originally started by one of our clubs. We're doing it. I think they used to be Bluff Springs, and they would go around and pass out like the
bags.
and people would fill them up, and then they'd go collect them. Well, over time, it got less and less kids in that club, and so we turned it into just a
county event.
County event. And so we've been doing it ever since I've been here. So that's 10 years.
It'll be at Harp's Food Stores November 21st from 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. So we hope that you stop by. Take cash, take food. Happy to see you. Harp's is a great partner. They usually make blessing bags in advance, and I know there's a lot of efforts right now to help boost the food stores at our local food ministry.
Yeah, and our kids will be there, and they're usually passing out like the type of stuff, the flyer with what
we're hoping
to get,
donated.
And they really like that. They like visiting with people, and
yeah, they have a good time. It's fun.
And they'll carry your groceries. They try to be helpful when we do it.
The young, able bodies.
Yep. Well,
I think that's good for today.
Yeah.
And we appreciate everybody that's hung on and been listening this last few episodes, and we're happy to have you.
All right.